Hey YouTube, this is Raj, and today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 sword enchantments in Minecraft, so why don't we get started? So before we get started, I should quickly say that I have videos on each enchantment. They're a lot more detailed if you want more information, and this list is meant to be more of my opinion on what I think is the best enchantments for the sword. So what increases the function, what makes it a better weapon, and really just what's fun. So the number 10 enchantment for the sword is the Curse of Vanishing. Probably the worst enchantment in Minecraft. Basically, when you die, it means that your item will disappear, so your sword will disappear. It's one of two cursed enchantments, and the way that you get it is through chest loot, fishing, or villager trading. So just watch the swords that you get through these sources, or the enchanted books that you get through these sources. So just make sure that you don't have it. I mean, if you have it on your sword already, you really can't do anything about it, but it's definitely the worst enchantment you can put on your sword. So the number 9 enchantment for the sword is the Bane of Arthropods. So the maximum level you can get is 5, and what this does is it increases the amount of damage by 2.5 per level to arthropods. So the maximum level is 5, so you can do an extra 12.5 on top of the melee damage that you already do with the sword. So this means you could pretty much do almost 20 damage just on arthropod mobs. Now when you hit the mob, it also gives them slowness 4 for 0.5 seconds per level, so the maximum is 3.5 seconds that they'll have slowness 4. Now the mobs that are arthropods are spiders, cave spiders, bees, silverfish, and endermites. Okay, so I have a Bane of Arthropods enchanted sword here, and I have a cave spider, which is a little more health than a normal spider. So let's see how much damage I can do when I actually hit this guy. So I pretty much instantly killed him, so you can definitely see it's an effective against those mobs, but it's just there aren't that many mobs of that type in the game. So the number 8 enchantment for the sword is the Knockback enchantment. So this is similar to the punch enchantment for the bow, and what it means is when you actually hit the mob, they'll travel backwards. So it moves them back 3 blocks per level, so the maximum can be up to 8 if you're sprinting also. Okay, so I have a Knockback 2 sword, and we're going to test this out. So you can see that the mob traveled backwards a bit. They didn't travel much, but you can definitely notice it. So the other thing is this is really just, it makes you travel backwards, it doesn't do more damage, and it's really not that interesting of an enchantment. I mean, the only way it's useful is if you can actually make them travel backwards and maybe fall into lava or something like that. So the number 7 enchantment for the sword is the Smite enchantment. And the Smite enchantment applies to undead mobs. The maximum level is 5, and it does 2.5 damage per level of the enchantment. So this means you can do an extra 12.5 damage to mobs that are undead. I should also mention that Smite is incompatible with both of Bane of Arthropods and also Sharpness. Now the mobs that this applies to are things like skeletons, zombies, withers, wither skeletons, zombie pigmen, skeleton horses, strays, husks, drowned, and phantoms. So you can see there's 10 different mobs that it actually applies to. It applies to a lot more mobs than the Bane of Arthropods enchantment did. So I have a Smite sword in my hand, and I'm going to see how much damage it does to this zombie. So it took 2 hits to actually kill him. I believe the amount of damage is pretty close to actually instantly killing him. So this time it took 2, but next time it could only take 1 to kill that zombie. So it's definitely an effective enchantment, it's just it doesn't apply to that many mobs. So the 6th enchantment for the sword is the Unbreaking enchantment. The Unbreaking enchantment is very useful because it reduces the chance of durability being used when you actually use the sword. So the maximum level is 3, and the formula for the durability is 100 divided by in brackets level plus 1. So at Unbreaking 3, it means you have 4 divided into 100, so it's 25. So it's a 25% chance that the sword will actually use its durability. So usually when a sword uses durability, it only uses 1 durability each time you use it. But this means that 25% of the time it might use durability. So this means your sword will actually have 4 times longer uses, or 4 times the amount of uses than it normally does. So it's a very valuable enchantment because it increases the length that you can actually have your sword for. So the number 5 enchantment for the sword is Fire Aspect. So this is similar to the Flame enchantment for the bow. So it basically lights mobs on fire when you actually hit them with the sword. So the maximum level is 2, and basically it adds 80 fire ticks or 4 seconds per each level. So this means that a mob could be on fire for either 4 seconds or 8 seconds. So it'll drop cooked meat instead of raw meat. So for example, with chicken, if you hit it, it'll drop cooked chicken instead of just raw chicken. So at level 1 it does 3 damage, and at level 2 it can do 7 damage, and this is over the length of while it's burning. So at level 1 it does 3 damage, and at level 2 it does 7 damage. So the amount of damage is basically just how long it's on fire for. One thing about this is also that you won't get XP if there was no non-fire damage within 5 seconds of it dying. So as you can see, it can be up to 8 seconds that the mob is on fire. If it goes all the way up to 8 seconds and you haven't hit the mob, then you won't get any XP out of them actually dying from the fire aspect. And the last thing is that nether mobs are immune to it because they're obviously immune to fire damage. So I have a fire aspect sword here, and I'm just going to test it out on this zombie. So I'm just going to hit him, and you can see he's on fire, and it's taking him quite a while. He's taking a lot of damage from the fire. You can see it's about every second he's taking damage. So it's definitely a useful enchantment, and anything that increases the amount of damage you do with the sword is useful. So number 4 is the sharpness enchantment. And the sharpness enchantment, the maximum level is 5, and this is incompatible with the Bane of Arthropods and also the Smite enchantment, so you have to choose one of the 3. The default damage that it does is 1, and then it's 0.5 per level. So the maximum it does is 3.5 damage. So unlike the other 2 enchantments, which are specific to certain types of mobs, this applies to all mobs, so it's a lot more broader in the amount of damage you can do to mobs. So with a diamond sword, you'll actually have to use an anvil to put sharpness 5 onto it, so you basically have to get a book that has sharpness 5 and sacrifice it into the sword in order to get a sword with sharpness 5. So I have a sword with sharpness 5 on it, and we're going to test it out against this zombie. So you can see he took 1 hit, and he took 2 hits, and he took 3 hits. So you can see that it doesn't do that much damage, but it does a decent enough damage, at least it's useful for the sword. So number 3 enchantment for the sword is the Sweeping Edge enchantment. So what the Sweeping Edge enchantment allows you to do is basically a sweeping attack. So this is a bit different. It basically allows you to do more damage around the mobs that you're attacking. So let's say you get attacked by 3 mobs. Now usually when you have a sword and you attack the mob in the middle, it doesn't do that much damage to the mobs next to it. But this enchantment allows you to do more damage to the mobs around the one you're attacking. So if you get swarmed by a large amount of mobs, you basically can do more damage to all of the mobs instead of just one. So the maximum level is 3, it increases the sweep attack, and to give you an idea how much damage you do to the mobs that you aren't attacking, basically at level 1 it's 50% of damage, at level 2 it's 67%, and level 3 it's at 75%. So it definitely makes it a lot more useful to have this on a sword. Okay, so I loaded up this place with zombies, and I have a sword that has a sweeping edge on it. So we're gonna see how much damage I can do to the mobs. So if I attack this guy, you can see that I'm doing damage to the ones around me, and you can see that it's definitely being effective. So a lot of the mobs that I'm hitting, yeah, you can see that 3 are getting attacked when I'm basically just swiping at 1. So the number 2 enchantment for the sword is the Mending enchantment. So the maximum level of this enchantment is level 1. It could be obtained through chest loot, fishing, raids, and also villager trading. And how it works is when you get 1 XP, it repairs 2 durability on the sword. So an item can be in the hand, the offhand, or an armor slot. If you have multiple items with mending on it, one is chosen at random, and if that item has full durability already, the XP will be applied to the player. So this is definitely useful when it comes to a sword. So if you're killing mobs, it should restore the durability of the sword while you're using it. And the number 1 enchantment for the sword is the Looting enchantment. So the reason I like the Looting enchantment as number 1 for the sword is because it increases the amount of drops you get. So if you think about something like the Fortune enchantment for the pickaxe, it basically allows you to get more diamonds when you're mining. Well, the Looting enchantment allows you to get more drops when you're killing mobs. So the maximum level is 3, it increases the amount of drops you get from mobs. So a lot of this is math based, but basically if you get common drops, it can increase the amount of common drops by 1 per level. so this means you can get an extra 3 common drops. So with uncommon drops, the first attempt fails, there's a second attempt. And if you look at this, the maximum level is 3, so it would be 75% chance that you could get an uncommon drop on the second attempt. So with rare drops, there's an increase of 1 percentage point per level, so you get an extra 3% if you have eluding 3 enchantment. Also with equipment drops, it's the same, so you get an increase of 1 percentage point per level. So if you look at this, this pretty much means that when you kill mobs, you can get more drops and you can get more items, especially more useful items. So it's definitely the best enchantment for the sword in Minecraft. So that was the top 10 enchantments for the sword in Minecraft. If you're interested, I have videos on each individual enchantment and it's a lot more detailed. I also have a sword enchantment guide that you can check out. If you like this video, please give me a like. If you want me to keep producing content, please give me a subscribe. You can always leave a comment, I appreciate that. And stay classy, YouTube. This is Raj.